Hello everyone, Karen Glasser here, and we are connecting people, changing lives. So happy to see everyone today, and I am happy and always happy to see my cohort and co-host, Nancy Ferrari. Good morning, Nancy. How are you today?
Good morning, Karen. I'm just doing wonderful and just so thrilled for our special guest today. And we truly, I look back and we were talking about our title, Connecting People, Changing Lives. This truly was in divine order, and get used to hearing that word because it's going to be mentioned quite a bit, because our guest today truly is the epitome of connecting people and connecting them to their true and authentic self, and we're going to go more further into that. So with us today, I proudly share, because we both know her so well, is Jen Duchene, who is a success astronumerologist, an Akashic healer, a speaker, an author, also a radio show host, who helps people live the promise of their purpose and create their own joyful, soulful version of success. Through her mastery of metaphysics, deep intuition, and compassion, clarity, Jen guides her clients along the path to freedom. Love that. By helping them uncover their most powerful abilities, release emotional weight, and change lifelong patterns that no longer serve them, so they can manifest what they truly desire in their personal and professional lives. And at this time, I want to warmly welcome Jen Duchene to Connecting People, Changing Lives. Good morning.
Good morning, Nancy and Karen. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we're excited. As I'm listening to Nancy interview you, actually introduce you, I was thinking, okay, I'm in. I want to do this. And we talked a little bit earlier before the show. I'm so in. I am so in. I'm loving what you're talking about. So, Nancy, I know that you are very much involved in terms of Akashic, right? That's So
Yes.
Why don't you guys talk amongst yourself and let her, because I'm going to listen.
Well, I'm going to ask you the questions, Jen, that come my way. What is an Akashic? Now, I refer to myself as an Akashic record consultant. You refer to yourself as an Akashic healer, and I really think it's one and the same. But for our viewers who may not have heard that word, and trust me, I was in Sedona last week, and people had not heard of that. And so what does that mean for our viewers?
Yeah. So what it means is my focus in the Akashic Records. So, I guess people who don't know the Akashic Records is the Akasha. It's a library held in the ethers that contains everything that's ever been done or experienced. And what I do in that work is I actually take people into, I'm a healer. That's basically what I am. So when I'm going into the Akashic Records and finding out information that they need to know, whether they have questions or fears, I'm actually clearing those fears through the Akashic Records. So they lose emotional weight. They become lighter and freer, because we have a lot of vows, we have a lot of things we've done in our past lives that actually are stuck in ourselves, and they affect who we are right now. So we're actually, the things that we're working on right now in this lifetime are connected to a route we've chosen. When we've come in, we've chosen to work on certain things, and these things keep coming up. So we have patterns in our lives. Like, why do we choose the same partner? Why do we have money issues? These are all connected to past lives. So this is where I go in. I go in and through the masters, or the individual's masters, clear old experiences so they're free to move forward.
Wow. As I said, I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
If that's all I contribute to this conversation today, I'm in.
However, you do have to say you have received a reading.
I was actually going to say that. So I actually was in I guess about a month ago. Nancy did a reading for me as well, and I was actually joking earlier. I understand enough to be dangerous, But I think it's really valuable what you're talking about, because it does make a difference in the life that we're in right now. So let's talk a little bit about astronumerology. What is that?
You said it right. So astronumerology is numerology in the astrology chart, right? You have a birth chart. It's astrology, right? Based on signs. And there are numbers or degrees attached to every planet. Like when you're born, you have a map, right? The map of the skies is what an astrology chart is, the exact moment you're born. It's like a snapshot of when you're born. And that snapshot is your birth chart. And next to each thing, like you can say, oh, I'm born in, Taurus, and, my rising sign. What does that all mean? Well, all of those things have degrees, right? Because it's run by numbers, like everything. And I look at the numbers, and with numbers, you can go so deep. So I'm looking at your birth chart numbers and the numbers that are on your actual, that you come in with, your numerology and your birth chart numbers. And I look at them and I can tell you all kinds of things about you from the day you're born and what's happening now based on your numbers.
I used to be very curious about that when I first started hearing about it. I think all my life there's been that, even knowing when there's a full moon, oh, I'm feeling different. But as I've gotten older and starting to get even more and more curious, and what I have to say is the viewers, you're seeing Jen's website there. I highly encourage you to pay a visit in there, because she does an amazing monthly call. I have a calendar where I have just a blank space there, and I am writing fast and furious because it happens, and I'm not always looking at it. And there's times that I'll refer to it later and go, yes, well, that explains a lot of it. But as I've listened to you before, and provide presentations within other networking groups, where I'm not personally familiar is the attachment of the letters in our name to numbers and what that reveals. And then then there's that side of me that'll say, well, I didn't name myself. That name was given to me by my parents, and what does that have to do with how who I am?
Well, it's really interesting. First of all, I'll tell you that I don't believe in coincidences. I don't know if you do. Everything is planned, right? So how can your name be a coincidence? You actually choose your name before you come in. Since you know about the Akashic Records, you know that we actually choose, we make contracts. We actually make soul contracts when we come into our lifetimes to be with certain people, have certain experiences. So, of course, we create this map. That's what the numbers do. It helps us. It's a guide for, okay, which way am I supposed to go? So when we have a map and we have the numbers, it actually guides us, because every number is it's one thing, it's a shape, right? But it goes deep. It's incredible roots, because every number has great meaning. And when you put all the numbers together, you begin to see a pattern. Everything runs from numbers, right? Even computers, right? Binary numbers is 1 and 0. Those are the basic universal numbers. So everything begins with 1 and 0. And every number comes from 1 and 0. Every letter, just even from the shapes, right? So it's incredible. It unravels our lives for us. There's all kinds of numbers for everything you can imagine. How you make money, how you have relationships with people, what you're here to do, just the daily energies, right? The monthly energies, the universe or the world or our lives. The universe has its own calendar. We have our Gregorian calendar. The universe has its own calendar, and it all works together. There's no coincidence.
And you cannot deny it. As
Yeah,
much as people will do. I actually enjoy having a challenge when someone challenges me on it. And I'll say, well, especially if I'm mentioning even the word soul. You know, how often is it that you'll one day the question came up when people say, what's your soul purpose? I used to think that meant your only purpose.
Oh, yeah.
That when you start to examine words and how people will say, oh, wow, you must have had a guardian angel because you just avoided a major collision. But then they'll say, oh, I don't believe in that. Well, take stock of what you're saying.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say about that? And that's what the Akashic is. It's a book of truth and love. And you can't deny the truth, right? The truth sets you free, and that's what the beauty is. What I'm getting from you is that it allows us to step into our freedom.
Exactly. And, you know, just to talk about words, when you use the word truth, the actual thing is there are very few truths, like universal truths. Those are the laws, universal laws, like the law of attraction. That's a universal truth. Everything else is an individual truth. So we have to understand that our truth will set us free. And if we all, and that's the number 21, which is our 21st century, right? Right there, 21 is telling us we're in the century of truth. But it's each of us becoming who we are and speaking from our own truth. That's why we need to free ourselves from our baggage, from the past life experiences, all these ideas that our parents did something to us. You know, they say the way we need to look at it is that it happened for us. That's how we evolve, right? By experience, by change. You know, even your name, the connections and change. That's part of. It's actually even part of the 21, right? The number 21.
So I have a question in terms of numbers, and that we are born with our numbers, and obviously you can't escape your numbers. That's what I'm hearing. But that's what I'm hearing. I mean,
That's true,
right?
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like what we're talking about here is that if you understand what your numbers are, you can within yourself move into the direction you need to move in based upon understanding what your numbers are.
Exactly. This is what happens, is the numbers are actually there for you to guide you, right? It's like you've given yourself a gift when you're born. If I get lost, here's my map. I can go look at it, right? But most people don't look at that map. It's all laid out for you.
Okay. It's almost like a mind map, right? It's almost like a mind map, but numbers are at the foundation of it.
Exactly. And it's because it's a code, right? You know, if it could be a whole ream of words. It could be thousands of books. But now it's just a couple of numbers or a couple of hundred numbers, right? There's a number for everything.
So success and manifesting, that's connected to numbers, right, as well. So how do we use those? How do we use those numbers then to have the success and to manifest that success?
Well, first of all, when you know your numbers, then you know where your genius lies, right? Because then you can really start to tap in. Okay, I know what my life purpose is. I know what my destiny is. Your destiny number, which is your name, is about your vocation, right? Which is more than just your career. The reason why we work is so that our soul has a purpose, right? That we feel like we're useful, that something's happening, we're evolving. And so when you know that, when you know your numbers, and you know the challenge of your numbers, right, or the shadow, right? I mean, it's not like every moment we're perfect, but we do need to work towards something. Otherwise, why not? Why are we here, right?
I was going to actually, absolutely, and so they're a guide. But you know, you made a statement a few minutes ago that basically what we have is what we have. I mean, we are here. We have a path that's already been put in front of us. I have a slightly different thought on that, because if I really felt that we had no free will whatsoever and that everything was laid out for us and that we don't really have a choice because the path has been laid out, I think I would personally have a problem with that, because I'm a control freak. And I would like to know that if something I do can change the path, I suppose that we can look at it, well, that we knew that we were, it was known that we were going to make that change, and therefore we're doing exactly what was supposed to happen. It's a really, I have a conflicted thought on all that.
Well, let me explain it to you, because the thing is, it's not laid out like you will do this today, tomorrow. What's laid out is who you are, the tools you come in with, and the abilities you have to grow, right? It's the promise. It doesn't mean you're going to do it. This is free will.
It's the promise.
Exactly. We totally have free will. This is what they tell us, the Akashic beings of light tell us. We absolutely have free will. That's why human beings come to Earth. We want to experience life. And the truth is, to experience life is joy. The ultimate way to experience life is to experience joy, which encompasses every emotion, but we're able to experience it and let it go and make choices. That's what life is about. It's about making choices. And we make choices until we decide it's no longer the right choice. But if you know your numbers, if you know your strength, if you know that you have certain, every number has the shadow side, right? So if you know that the behavior you're doing, like for instance 5, I'll give you an example. 5 is the number of change, right? It's the middle number between 1 and 9, which are the root numbers. And if, for instance, your numbers are 5, maybe you don't know it, but maybe when you were a kid, your parents and teachers were always saying, like, what's the matter with you? You can never sit still. You're always talking to everybody. You're never concentrating. Well, that's a 5. 5s are all about freedom and speaking to everybody, but the shadow of the 5 is you get easily distracted and you want to talk and you're chasing shiny objects, right? So when you know, wow, I'm a 5, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just my nature. Then you get to choose, do I want to be in the shadow or do I want to be in the light of my number? And there are actually things you can do to shift from shadow to light. So this is what we're talking about. This is when you actually you're empowered because you understand, you have the knowledge to suddenly go from being somebody who I don't understand why I'm not like everyone else to, wow, this is me. You have the confidence. I understand who I am. This is what I'm supposed to do. Yes, I see why I keep having this situation because I'm not dealing with X. Now I can take all my numbers and travel in a different direction. That's true free will, right? Empowerment.
Yeah.
When you just said the choice of living in the shadow or the other, wow, that was so clear to me. That actually was a very, very, as we were talking, I'm very concrete. That was a very, very clear statement to me. We have a choice. So that makes me feel good. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yes.
And I've got a question here because again, you and I definitely need to connect because the thing is when you start getting curious and we have so much information available, you're kind of getting it from here and from there, and you have your life path number, and then you have is it your destiny number?
Yes, destiny.
Yes, and that's where I need to get it straight because right now I'm a little confused. I'm thinking I've heard somewhere that I was a 6, which is kind of cool because the yin and the yang and starting to understand. But with so many of us, like as a child, I felt very misunderstood because when you were saying that, I must have been a 5. If I was bored in class, I'd be looking outside and thinking of or looking at angels or whatever going on out there. But that wasn't acceptable. And we talked about this the other day, that our generation with children should be seen and not heard. I wasn't going to have that. Sorry, but I paid the price.
Well, Nancy, actually, when you were talking about that, I was thinking in our day and age, we call that ADD, right? We actually put a label, attention deficit disorder. We actually do that, and living in the shadow, right? That would be living in the shadow and the bright, shiny object. So it's interesting. It's a different way to look at this, and I think if we don't label our kids as ADD or label adults as ADD, and instead explaining that you have that choice, as to how you, wow. is all I can say. Wow. I'm taking notes here. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that's why it's so interesting. And you talk about success. Like, you know, for me, the definition of success is to have a goal and to reach it, whatever it is. Everyone has their own idea. Not everyone wants a pile of money. And to be honest, having a pile of money is meaningless unless you're going to do something with it. That's why when you manifest, you actually have to, if you just say, oh, I want a pile of money, it's not going to happen, because what are you going to do with it? There's no passion. You know, it's all about the true meaning. To be spiritual, for me, is to be passionate in life. Like, see, we can all be spiritual at any time. Like, we can go up into the mountain and be spiritual, and when we're not human, we're spiritual. But when we come to Earth, we need to be spiritual in a human body. And that means dealing with the stuff that comes up in our lives, not running away from it. You know, the only emotion most of us actually feel is anger. And that's not, you know, anger is the thing it turns into because we're suppressing emotion. We're not actually experiencing emotion. So, you know, that's part of our free will, right? All of this being able to be who we are and not be suppressed by society, like silenced. So when we understand that everyone's different, remember we were talking about truth, that everyone's truth is a different truth, right? Then when you understand we're all different, and our numbers, we may have the same numbers, but if they're in a different sequence or they fall different. We have numbers that influence us not just from our name and our birth date, but from the actual letters in our name. We have all kinds of numbers. There's a number called a shift number, which actually, when you know what it is, you know what you need to do to make money. There are numbers in your actual chart that show you how you make money. How you're supposed to work with. You know, even how you're supposed to play, right?
Right, and you mentioned money. I mean, that it's not the object, at least I don't think the object have millions and millions of dollars. Tim Ferriss talks about the idea of the new rich versus the old rich, and the way he differentiates it is that there are people that will work till retirement, and they're doing, when I retire, I'm going to do this, and I'm saving, and they get to retirement, and they're just too freaking old to do that. And so instead of, he talks about the new rich, where the goal is not to make millions of dollars, the goal is to make enough money to do those things that you want to do. And then you are rich.
Yes, and that's beautiful. And you know what? That ties into the number 8. You know, I see the number 8 as you're talking, Nancy, and Caren. But you know, and probably, Caren, you have 8 or something like that, because 8 is the number of success, right? And it's a very concrete number. It's a number of manifesting, right? What is manifesting? It's making things with your hands. It's making it real, right? That's concrete. So 2, 4, and 8 are actually concrete numbers. 2 is about connecting and relationships and balance. 4 is about actually your home and beauty and foundation, like laying down the foundation and organizing things, right? Creating a system. And then 8 is the actual number where you overview it and you create success. So it gives you the strength to overcome obstacles. And with the 8, you know, it's the number of infinity, and you have 2 zeros, right? 2 zeros together. It's the only number you can continually write with your pen without lifting up. And what that does is it invokes a universal law, as above, so below. And what that means is, in order to manifest wealth on this earth, we have to have wealth of our soul. We have to understand the wealth of our mind is not in restriction, but in expansion. So I like to think about it as a tree. Success is a tree, right? Because we have to each individually have our own roots, our own root system, our own trunk, our own branches, and we create shade and, you know, apples. You know, apple tree, we create apples. And what we're doing is people can lean on our tree and get shade, you know, and rest. They can pick our apples so they get nourishment. They can go and plant their own apple trees. So it's a system that keeps giving. And that's what true wealth is. It's not about let me hoard my money in my room. It's how do I live a life that's passionate, that helps other people live a passionate life. And that's the number 8. It's about leadership, right?
Yes.
You're either leading yourself or you're leading your business or you're doing things because not only does it help you, but it helps everyone else.
That's sort of like the book, The Giving Tree. Guys, did you ever read The Giving Tree? It's exactly what you just said, Jen. It's about a tree that is planted that ultimately creates shade. It's from a seedling all the way to the tree that holds the tree house, and it becomes a living, breathing entity. It's a beautiful book, and it's exactly what you were just talking about, especially the analogy of the tree. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
I'm writing it down.
And one of my analogies for trees is the bamboo tree, because the roots grow quickly, deep, as the branches to the sky, but it has bend and flex. And I always like that because we have to have that ability to bend and flex in life rather than snap. But what you brought to light earlier, I had heard before, it's not about the money, it's what the money's for. And that falls in alignment with what you're saying, that it's not to have, with an enormous amount of money. In fact, I was watching on TV, and they're sharing what a certain politician's net worth is like. But the huge responsibility of that, do we really want to have that? You're bringing forth questions. I'm really hoping that our viewers are thinking about, like, wow, and how abundant are we already? And that's where that gratitude piece comes in. I keep looking in the corner because I've got your necklace with the number 8 that you gave out that's where I met you at It's Your Turn, and I'm so grateful that event happened, that we got to meet. But and I would look at you and I'd see if I had tears in my eyes, so did you. I'm like, we're so moved by so many of the women in the group, and that's what it's all about too. It's really connecting with people who uplift, who support, who elevate. And I'm quite certain that once you also get to know your numbers and who you are, that helps you make those decisions.
Right. And you know what? I know that you do a free monthly call. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens on these calls, or what one might expect? And we'll let the people know how they can actually join you on these calls. So what happens on your monthly calls?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Caren. What I do actually is I talk about the energy of the month. There's a number of the month, and I talk about that and give people tips, like how do they need to deal with what comes up and what's going to come up, right? Because the numbers reveal that. And I also do a healing meditation based on whatever the months, whatever the masters are calling for, that it's based on the month. Because there are 2 numbers in the month, there's the moon, there's all kinds of things happening, and I share some of that information as well as the healing that's based on it, and then people can, of course, ask questions.
So how can somebody sign up for this? How can they actually, join you?
They can join my newsletter, go on my website and just join my group, and it's on the sidebar of one of the pages, my blog page, or they can go to my services page and go all the way to the bottom, and there's a little link where they can click on to join for these monthly.
That's great. And I know that you also have a wonderful gift for our viewers, 8 Steps to Success, that they can also access on JenDuchene.com to be able to get that as well. I think Nancy has started me on this journey, and Jen, I think you're taking me just a little bit further, which is quite fascinating, actually, for myself. Maybe Nancy, you've just opened my mind to be able to.
My job is done. Her mind is open to the possibilities. I love it, and that's the beauty of sharing. And Caren, you being open to receive. Sometimes you look at me with like.
Well, let's be fair. Let's be totally honest. I say to Nancy, okay, let's talk about your woo-woo stuff. But it is. It's about being open to different thoughts and different concepts and scary things, that kind of. I find this frightening. I actually find this frightening.
Well, Caren, it's interesting because I used to be you, right? So, for much of my life, right? Except for when I was really young and I understood all this. And I was interested in esoteric, but I was afraid of all of this stuff until a couple of years ago, and I was kicked into it. I basically, had nowhere else to go. I was in a terrible depression. And I was at the point where I didn't want to be around anymore. I couldn't function. And I made a choice to do what I needed to do because I wanted to be here for my daughter. And, that's like, how a lot of times it happens. Like there's no point in my life except I can't leave my child, right? So I made that choice to do whatever it took.
Step into the fear, right? Just step right into it and just do it.
Yeah, because fear for me is it's a guardian. Fear is the thing that leads you to the next step. So if you're afraid of fear or you want to eliminate fear, you will never be able to know this is the place you need to go, right?
It's funny you say that. I tend to, when I am getting ready to do something new that I've never done before, I'm fearful. And I actually feel that fear. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I think we all have a place in our body that we feel the fear. And I feel the fear, and I literally get it in my stomach. I get that
That's
pit
a
in my
common
stomach,
place.
which is sort of like how I know that I need to be going in that direction. I know enough about that to say, okay, this is something that you need to step into, even though you are terribly, terribly frightened by it, and just do it. Is that normal to feel it in your stomach, your heart, wherever?
Yes. Well, we all have different places. A lot of us get it in our stomach because it's our center of intuition. There we have a brain in our stomach. And so that's what that does. And everyone is different, though. So you've got to know yourself. Start to really feel where you feel things. And then you begin to know where your senses are. And the more aware you become, the better your senses. But, talking about fear, it's actually interesting because we wouldn't be able to experience life fully without fear. And there are two kinds of fear, right? One is actually not even fear, it's excitement. But we don't know what excitement feels like. We just think it's fear, right? When you want to do something and it's exciting and you get butterflies because you really feel drawn to it, but like you say, you've never done it before, so of course you're afraid. Why wouldn't you be? It's something new, right? But it's also exciting. Or there's that fear, and that's different. The fear of something that you really don't want. And you're getting that sinking feeling in your stomach, like I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know this is wrong, or I know somebody shouldn't treat me like this. That's the line, like the border. Like that's where you have to do something different also, but it's a different kind of different, right? That's when you have to set boundaries for yourself and say, I'm not accepting this anymore, or I don't want this anymore, right?
Yes.
Fascinating.
The distinction between the two. I would say, Caren, I don't say it to you, but it's a phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway, especially when Jen said, I also get it in my sacral chakra right in the middle. That's where my creativity is. But when I'm feeling that closure here within the throat chakra, that's my indicator that this is not right. I'm being, like strangled. That no, I have to be able to breathe. I have to be able to express. And if I'm getting a feeling when I'm around someone or there's an opportunity for something, that just being aware, and that's what you provide for people to get that awareness. And life then becomes much more easier, And one of the lines in the Four Agreements that always stuck in my mind is that we were put on this earth to not to struggle, but to experience joy.
Absolutely, joy, the ultimate emotion. Exactly. That's the highest emotion. And 15, this year we're in, is actually this number 15. And we're in a 15-month universally. But anyway, the 15, it makes a 6. 1 of 5 is 6, which is that loving, self-care, loving your family number, really service-oriented, health-oriented, which insists, because it's a number of birthing, that you do take care of yourself, extreme self-care. 15 is the number that allows you to actually transmute this service of love into joy. So,
wow.
Yes.
Wow. Jen, before we say goodbye to everyone, any last thoughts that you want to share that we haven't touched on?
I did want to share a little bit about, we talked very briefly about money, and I do want people to understand money or wealth is about abundance, and it really is about, money is it's a currency, it's an energy, it's an energetic thing, and it responds to your own energy. Just like success and whatever you do, you really have to be tuned into who you are and be compassionate with yourself in order to experience joy and enjoy life and enjoy more free will.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I appreciate you sharing that with me, because when I heard that too, that money is just energy. It's floating all around. And then so are we. Everything is. And it's how you respond to that. I share with others, just open your mind to allow to hear what comes your way. It really can make such a shift, right? In how you approach things, rather than, like I said, a struggle. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get my bills paid? Da, 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 da. Start lightening up with how you perceive that.
Exactly. When you think about fear, or you think about your worries, or I have no money, you're basically sending a message to the universe, because the universe just reinforces whatever you think. So if you say I have no money and you keep saying things like that, that's your reality. You create your own reality by your own belief system and by reinforcing it, and the universe just meets you wherever you are. And that's what money does, right? So money goes where it's loved.
Right, and that's why we talk about affirmations, that we speak in the present tense. I am, or I have, or I am actually doing it, because the mind will believe that. It believes anything that you say, basically, right in alignment with that. So
it can't negate. Yeah. You might as well tell it the right thing, exactly. or what you're wanting or desiring, rather than the lack of.
Right, exactly.
Scarcity piece.
Nancy, any last thoughts on your side over there?
Gosh, I don't know. I think I've expressed myself quite a bit here, but I thank you, Jen, number one, for coming into my life, for allowing us to share you with our viewers, and I can't encourage people enough to at least get started with listening to you every month. If you're inclined to want to know more and expand, Jen is there for you, and I can't wait to connect more with you, Jen, and I thank you so much for the difference that you make in my life and the lives of others.
And I as well want to thank you, Jen. I feel very blessed right now, because I have gotten to know you more in this half hour of our conversation than probably in all the time that we've known each other, and that's so cool to me. I think that's so cool to me. So thank you for that. And I want to thank our viewers, because we know that you have a choice as to where you spend your time, and we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you decided to spend that with us. We also want to remind you, Nancy and I want to remind you, that every second Tuesday of the month we do a show called Connecting with Caren and Nancy, or Nancy and Caren, depending on how I'm feeling at any given day. And it's a live show. It happens every second Tuesday. The next one is on August 11th at 9 a.m. If you would like to be live with us on the show, just watch for announcements on our page on Facebook, Connecting People, Changing Lives, and we will give you that opportunity to join us live. We did one on Tuesday, and it was fascinating having all those different ideas flowing. So I hope that you'll join us there. And if you'd like to do a show just like this, if you would like to launch your own online television show, well, you know what? You can. You can do it. Just step into your fear, and make sure that you check out the little button that's at the top that says maximize your message, and see if maybe this is the time for you to do that. So as always, we want to thank you for being with us, and we will see you next time on the next episode of Connecting People, Changing Lives. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.